It's a very mixed report. There are many things. It's a very broad report. I would say that the headline of the report is that we're seeing more trade restrictive measures than before. That's clearly the situation. We hope that we can stop this trend. The growth of the global economy is showing signs of recovery. Our hope is that these new trade tensions will not affect that and will not take away the opportunities of this growth that is looking promising right now.
The question is, what will the WTO's role be in that objective? Larry Kudlow, the president's chief economic advisor, telling us last week at a conference that the WTO is broken. How do you respond?
Well, he will not lose his job for that, that's for sure. What I can say is the WTO is not broken. The WTO is functioning actually quite well. Were it not for the WTO, after the crisis in 2009, we would have seen many more protectionist measures in place. The global economy would have had a much harder time recovering. Can we do better? Can we improve? Can we respond faster? Can we do better things? Absolutely. Nobody has doubts about that. And this is what we need to do. We need to keep reforming and updating the system. But the system is functioning. It's functioning quite well, actually.
What if the U.S. pulls out? There have been reports that President Trump is looking at this prospect and how he would do that through legislation. What would the WTO be without the U.S.?
That's absolute speculation. I had no indication whatsoever on the part of any of the authorities of the U.S. that I have talked to that this would be the case. So there's no point speculating in that direction.
You know, the president has criticized world trade as being unfair to the U.S. and China, which a lot of people agree with him, that China has practiced unfair trade practices, intellectual property theft, technology transfers. Why hasn't the WTO addressed this and gone after it?
Well, the first thing to note is that trade needs to be as balanced as possible, and we have a constant task of removing barriers, of reducing distortions, and distortions do come in. That's the whole point of the disciplines that we have in the WTO, is to avoid distortion, is to avoid unfair practices and things of the kind. That's exactly what the system is there for. Now, if there are things that we are not capturing at this point in time, this is the kind of thing that we need to sit down and have a conversation about. I think a lot of people have ideas. We already have seen many concepts out there in terms of even a reform of the WTO. Let's see what that looks like. I think we should be always and permanently striving to improve the system and to have the rules that capture the business practices of today. The ones we have, they have been updated, but only progressively. There are many areas where we need a quantum leap.
One common complaint from the administration, Mr. Director, is that China is misclassified given its strength in the global economy. Is that something that you might change?
It's not us that will change it. I think the complaint is that China self-designates itself as a developing country in the WTO. Therefore, they are entitled to the special and differential treatment that developing countries receive. In most situations, you will see a situation of pragmatism. For example, the latest agreements that we negotiated, they do not necessarily differentiate very much developed in a developing country per se, but it is the degree of commitments that they take in that arrangement that vary. I think this conversation about who is a developing country, what kind of flexibilities can be afforded to them, are they all the same? Is China the same as Kenya? Is China the same as Honduras? That's the kind of, I think, conversation that we need to have. I believe that the only way forward here is flexibility. We have to be realistic about the possibility of countries to contribute to the system and take actions accordingly.
Sir, the administration here has implemented certain tariffs based on national security. concerns and contemplates at least the possibility of tariffs on automobiles from the EU for the same reason, national security. What is your response to the use of a national security overall umbrella as being the reason for certain tariffs?
What is happening with the U.S. measures is that they are not orthodox in the sense that national security has been used before. It's not the first time. It has been used several times. Every time that there is a trade embargo or there is some kind of sanction on the basis of geopolitical pressures and tensions, that is usually going to be justified by national security. Now, these are very much different because we are talking about specific trade areas that are more loosely defined, to put it that way. Whether or not they are justified under the WTO rules, we don't know. The reality is that there are many disputes that have been brought to the WTO dispute settlement system, and that system is the only one that can pass judgment on the consistency of those measures with the rules that we have.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.